Are quarantines about health or is it about control? And I'm going to take you through an article here. This comes from the Business Insider. China put 46 million people, that's debatable right there. I've heard from 46 to 56, and we're not getting real accurate, portrayal of what's really going on here. I don't think, anyway. China put 46 million people in lockdown to contain the Wuhan virus, but quarantines throughout history have been riddled with mishaps. Right here, let me click on this, make sure I can get it so you can read it. In an attempt to contain the Wuhan virus, China has issued the largest quarantine in human history. The country has put 16 cities on lockdown, affecting an estimated 46 million people, 46 to 56, somewhere in there. It was originally 56. Quarantines have been used to prevent the spread of disease for hundreds of years. The first formal system was established in Venice during the 14th century. In a matter of weeks, the Wuhan virus has killed more than 100 people and infected over 4,600. Will the quarantine work? And I'm just going to get to the important stuff. Here are some of the most prominent examples and failures of quarantines throughout history. The bubonic plague initiated the first formal quarantine in Venice. There's a skull and crossbones right there. First quarantine system, Black Death, to prevent ships, cargo, and people suspected of infection from entering the city for 40 days. A holding center on an island off the coast, which is what they're doing in Australia right now. They're sending people to Christmas Island. But these efforts hardly stopped the disease from spreading. The Black Death ultimately killed 15 million people, about 1/5 of the population across Europe. That quarantine didn't stop anything. The only thing that stops this, in my view, is being on top of things. I mean, as soon as it hits, you have to be right on top of the situation, and they never are. A yellow fever outbreak spread throughout Philadelphia in 1793. I'll just get to the killed an estimated 5,000 people. Quarantined sailors at hospitals outside the city. And here. But these efforts didn't help the outbreak nearly as much as officials had hoped. Yellow fever was spread through mosquitoes, and eventually a cold weather pattern proved much more effective in the stopping of the disease. In 1832, a cholera epidemic hit New York City. Let me go on here. Cholera has been spreading in Canada. A strict quarantine to protect the city. No vehicle could come closer than 300 yards to the city. But the quarantine didn't do much to contain the disease. By the end of June, the first case of cholera was reported in the city, and by the end of the epidemic, over 3,500 people had died, plus 70,000 people left New York, spreading the disease to other parts of the country. And here's how you get on top of a quarantine. You have to stop people from well, I really shouldn't say that, but I'll just give you the information. You can decide for yourself. But so far, quarantines have not worked one bit. They're even saying the face masks are useless. A typhus outbreak in New York City showed the country history of targeting immigrants. They're using quarantines to target immigrants for quarantining. And let's see this baggage to examine here. Huh, damn. In the United States, quarantines have had a history of targeting immigrants for isolation. It's government using it for control. And once again, all you have to do is research government-sponsored biowarfare. Long history of it being done around the world. Okay, let me see, just get you the important stuff. Quarantine them in tents on North Brother Island in the East River. But non-immigrant New Yorkers who got sick or were suspected of having a disease weren't removed from their homes or treated with such harsh isolation. Very dangerous. Quarantines are very dangerous. Takes away people's rights. It's not worth it. In 1900, a bubonic plague scare resulted in the quarantine of Chinese immigrants. Here we go again. And there's even talk with this China thing about the Muslims being held in concentration camps in China. They're even talking about it, saying, is that what's going to happen to the Muslims in concentration camps? Dangerous stuff, folks. This is what people should be focusing on instead of the celebrity of the day. Targeted after a man was found dead in the basement of a hotel. Authorities strung rope and barbed wire around a 12 square block section of Chinatown, holding Chinese immigrants inside while allowing white residents to evacuate. The infamous Typhoid Mary was quarantined after making people sick from her cooking. Irish immigrant. She was an Irish immigrant. Quarantined. She was quarantined for 23 more years. Well, there's still more. From 1918 1919, a massive outbreak. Oh, this is the largest one in the world. Influenza resulted in large-scale quarantining in both Europe and the U.S. This is the Spanish flu, which killed 50 to 100 million people. And this is what could easily happen here. Can you imagine that? 50 to 100 million people died in 1917. And there are indications, I'll go into it in another broadcast, there are even indications that 1917 could have been biowarfare too. Let's just put it this way. It is a possibility. It's a possibility that that's what took place. Killed 50 million people worldwide, about 675,000 Americans died. Cut off public transportation, close down schools, and prevent public gatherings. The same thing they're doing in China right now. While these efforts may have helped the disease from spreading temporarily, millions of people still died, and these methods were largely seen as hugely socially disruptive. So as you can see, I didn't realize there was this many. The U.S. passed the Public Health Service Act establishing a clear set of quarantine laws. 1944. Let's see what he has to say. They were given the right to prevent the introduction, transmission, and spread of diseases from foreign countries into the United States. Yeah, your airports, the CDC still operates under this law to this day. Patients were quarantined throughout Cuba in 1986. Just had a 7.7 earthquake in Cuba. Since there's so many, Patients were quarantined in treatment centers called sanitariums, and it wasn't until 1993 that patients could finally choose to return home after completing an 8-week treatment course. It's a quarantine station in Staten Island. "55 quarantine stations in the U.S., located at every port, international airport, and major border crossing." 2003 global SARS outbreak became the first pandemic of the 21st century. And remember this, folks, the World Health Organization still hasn't declared a pandemic in China. Let's see what they have to say about that. I know China did not respond to this well. They got a lot of criticism about this, and they're doing the same thing again. Travel quarantines. 100 people were quarantined for every case in the country. Shocking 30,000 people were confined to hospitals or their homes in Toronto. 2014 bubonic plague scare. Quarantines in China. $30,000 on lockdown. Let's see what this one is. Quarantines to prevent the spread of Ebola. I think this, yeah, this is the one where I think the whole country was put under quarantine. Let's see. Ebola, West Africa, spread to 7 more countries, quarantine issued in multiple locations. Yeah, Sierra Leone, people were quarantined for 3 days. 28,000 cases, 11,000 deaths. I believe the whole country of Sierra Leone was put under quarantine. I think that's the first time an entire country has been put under quarantine. It is, according to it, Doctors Without Borders issued a statement saying, it's been our experience that lockdowns and quarantines do not help control Ebola, as they end up driving people underground and jeopardizing the trust between people and the health providers. This is why I keep telling everybody quarantines is about control, government control. 56 million people. And their lives have been, they have been traumatized, they have been terrorized, and they've lost all their rights. Okay, let me keep going. This, once again, this is from the Business Insider if you want to read the article, and I'll give you the title here in a minute. Okay, now the Wuhan. Largest quarantine in human history. Okay, that's it, folks. I just want to come on and show you how quarantines don't work. They're about control. And please visit my website if you want more information. It's thefutureofnews.info. Let me give you the, if I can get there. Try to give you the title in case you want to. Just type in 46 million people lockdown, Business Insider, and it should bring you straight to this story. And please get the word to people who don't know what's going on, and the people who are busy playing video games and worshiping celebrities and worshiping sports. Meanwhile, 56 million people have lost all their rights. It's a big deal. Okay, thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you soon.